we've always had a sustainable backyard series, so we're kind of upping it a little bit for the summer. And there'll be a few more, actually, one featuring me next week on vegetable gardening and what to do now that everything's theoretically planted. So anyway, very happy to bring Leslie aboard. She's really a visual artist, oils, watercolors, paper crafting. And she also does a lot of gardening and runs a gardening company, Dandelion Gardening Arts. And she also has been keeping chickens for 15 years. And I think she's one of those people who've always had an affinity, a close affinity for animals. And she's done the same with chickens. And I've seen her talking to her chickens, which she does quite frequently. And her chickens respond. And she's also learned an incredible amount about taking care of chickens, but also chicken behavior and chicken communication. And a few years ago, she did a different program for the library that chickens are smarter than you think. So anyway, with that, I think we can wait another minute or two, but I'll let Leslie take over now. And just remember to mute yourselves during the program, and Leslie can, well, she can figure it out. So yeah, anyway, thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Lawrence. So I'm Leslie Watkins, and this is Nippy. And Nippy is one of my beautiful little bantams that I've bred. And I call these little black ones Norfolk crows because I live in Norfolk and they look like little black crows to me. And I don't know what generation she is. She's probably something like the 20th generation. And I've actually bred these little chickens. I've selected them for cuteness, intelligence, and just friendliness. Okay, so these are, and I'll hold her up so you can see her. She's very tiny. Okay. So bantams, because they're very light, they can fly. They don't fly as well as a songbird, but they can certainly fly up to a tree to escape a predator. Oops. Just getting a little camera shot here. And I did not grow up with chickens. I moved to Norfolk, Connecticut, and I wanted to have something in my yard and in my gardens that would eat ticks and keep me company when I was out there gardening. And so I had the idea that I was going to get guinea hens. And I was on vacation up in Maine, near Five Islands, if anybody knows where that is. And there was a wonderful nursery there. I think it's called Coldwater Creek Nursery. I'm not sure, but she had beautiful plants for sale and all sorts of gardens, and she had chickens running around. And I struck up a conversation with this wonderful woman, Suzanne Vetiver, I think. She's a expert on salt spray rugosa roses, and I told her that I was thinking about getting guinea hens from my garden. She said, "Oh, no. Don't get guinea hens, get chickens." And I said, "Well, I heard that chickens really tear up your garden." She said, "Do my gardens look torn up?" I said, "No." She said, "Just do it. Just don't even think about it. Get chickens." So I went home and I ordered chickens. And I didn't know a thing about chickens in those days. And I went online and I found Mcmurray Hatchery. And you could buy a box of baby, I think they were 2-day-old chicks, and you'd get 24 of them, and you could get either all the same breed, or you could get a mixture of, I think it was up to 6 different breeds. And they put an extra chick in there in case you had a casualty. And that extra chick was called the mystery chick. And you didn't know what that chick was going to be. And so I ordered my box of chickens. I knew that I was allowed to have, I think, 25 chickens here in Norfolk at that time. And so I knew that I wanted a box of chickens, so I got them. And amazingly, half of them grew up to be boys and half of them grew up to be girls. So I couldn't have all those boys, and I wanted more chickens, so I got a second box. And that was how I got started. I picked them up at the post office, and I could hear the little peeping in the back room, and it was really exciting. The postmistress called me up and said, "Leslie, your box is here. You've got chickens." And I was so excited, and I brought them all home, and you know, they're tiny, so you have to keep them under lights until they get big enough. And I had them in my basement in a cage, and they were just, I couldn't stay away from them. I have to let somebody in. Hang on here. I have to keep an eye on the waiting room, everybody, so that I don't leave anybody out. And so that was my start. And they were very strange to me at the time, because I had always had cats and dogs and other fluffy animals. And when I picked up chickens, they felt weird because they had these, you know, pokey little feathers, and they didn't feel soft, and they didn't feel like anything I was used to. But over time, I did get used to holding a chicken, and I learned how to do it. And they are remarkably soft and very cuddly and very affectionate. And so that was the start. So how many people, now I can only see 4 or 5 people. A lot of you are hiding behind your names, so I can't see if you're actually watching or hearing me or whatever. But how many of you were actually thinking about getting chickens? I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to unmute you so that you can respond.
Thinking about it.
You're thinking about it? And
Yeah.
and have you had any chicken experience?
I haven't had any chicken experience owning chickens, but I've worked in gardens where there were chickens alongside, you know, volunteered working in gardens, school gardens where they had chickens.
Yeah. They make terrific gardening friends, because anytime you find a bug or a worm or something, they get very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. So I guess then who's that?
We got this is Rachel. We actually got chicks in March, so we have almost 3-month-old chicken teenagers.
Oh, they're adorable. So they're still acting. So they're getting a little headstrong, and they're getting, it's just like having a little village. And so did you get your chicks from a mail order?
We did, just like you.
Okay. All right. So this is what happens when you get your first box of chicks. They haven't had any kind of socialization. They don't have any parents and mother hen and rest of the flock to tell them what's what. So basically you've got a bunch of barbarians, wild, crazy little barbarians. And over time, they will figure things out. They will get their own little pecking order, and they'll begin to understand, you know, what their parameters are, you know, where they're allowed to go, where it's safe, what the routine is. They love routine, okay? But they are barbarians. And if you have good luck and you fall in love with your chickens, just as I think you will, and you start raising chickens, what you'll find is that your subsequent generations are going to behave much, much better, because they will have had the benefit of being disciplined by the older chickens, and they will be taught, and they will be trained, and they'll also get to know you, and you are going to become sort of part of their DNA, and your place is, of course, going to become their place. And so it's so fascinating to see how they develop from generation to generation. Nippy, are you talking? Nippy's talking. She wants to know, why am I doing all the talking and she's not, nobody's listening to her. Say hello to the folks, Nippy. There she is. So I have a little presentation to share with you. So I'm going to show you some slides, and I'm going to show you some interesting websites that you can visit if you need to find further information on chickens. And then afterwards, we'll have a little question and answer if that works out for everybody. I'll try not to keep you too long. It's 7:12 now, so I don't know, Lawrence, what you were thinking in terms of how long these things run, but I was thinking about an hour maybe. Does that sound right?
Yeah, typically about an hour if people,
Okay.
discussion
All right, so-
afterwards, people can leave. Obviously, people can leave whenever they want, but yeah, we should be about an hour, and then we can go longer if people want, have more questions.
Okay, so I hope everybody has a nice cool drink. It's hotter than Hades here today. It's just so humid and so warm. Hopefully you all have a nice cocktail. Okay, so I am learning how to Zoom. I am not a complete novice, but I'm not much better than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you and show you a little slideshow. And actually, if you could unmute yourselves, because I'm going to ask you a question in a couple of minutes, and I want you all to be able to answer me.
Who's making that sound?
That's either Elvis, Lothario, or Otello.
Lothario.
All right, so my screen, I can still see windows and other things. Are you guys seeing like all my windows and stuff, or are you actually seeing the picture of the chickens?
The picture.
The picture of the chicken.
And on the side, all the little boxes with the feet.
Okay, all right, okay. Do you see this white thing too?
What is a pen popper?
Oh, okay. All right. So this, I think this is everybody's sort of nostalgic idea of having a backyard flock of chickens. It certainly was my idea.
What was that rooster from?
She's just doing a little, yeah.
And so I don't know the name of the artist who painted this picture, but it's really cute. So we're going to get started now.
We'll count, if we chose to, we could get roosters, but I don't want to.
Here's the name of our program. So for anybody who was thinking about getting chickens, I'm going to help you get started if that's what you're looking for. And I'm Leslie Watkins.
Yeah. But so it is Mcmurray Hatchery.
Yeah.
And what I want to tell you about is that chickens are smarter than you think. Really. They're way smarter than you think. So here's the question. Who knows what the difference between a parrot and a chicken is?
What's the difference between a parrot and a chicken?
Yeah. What's the difference between having a parrot and a chicken as a pet?
The length of their life.
Parrots can talk.
Those are really good. That's all true. Yes. So chickens, parrots, I think, can live to about 70 years. Chickens typically, at least in my experience, live around 15 years, although there may be longer ones. And yeah, parrots can talk, but actually chickens do a lot of talking too, but you may not necessarily understand them right off the bat. So this is the main difference.
Oh.
Parrots are very expensive. Chickens you can get for very little investment, and you can have 25 of them. So we have had a relationship with chickens for at least 7,000 years and maybe longer. And what that's done is, because we've provided room and board for the chickens, and I'm just going to hit this button for a second. Oh, I can't do it. Okay, never mind. Because we've provided them housing, we feed them, they have a lot of time on their hands. And what they've done over those 7,000 years with all that time is that they've developed very intricate social systems. They've gotten really smart. They know how to work in partnership with humans, and they have a very broad range of vocalizations that helps them to communicate with one another. Now you hear those roosters in the background. They're crowing for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it's the end of the day and they want to make sure that they call in all their girls and that everybody's safe. There's a couple of roosters back there and they're talking to one another and they're just basically saying, yeah, this is my area. Yo, this is my area. You're coming too close. No, okay, I'll back up. So they're having a conversation. And they crow for all kinds of different reasons. But right now, I think what they're really responding to is they can hear me talk. And they know it's time at around 7 o'clock at night, this time of year, I'll go out there and I'll sit with them with my cup of tea or my glass of wine or whatever. And I let them out and I let them run around and they love that. So they're hoping that I'm going to go up and join them. Chickens love to eat bugs. This was the major reason why I wanted to get chickens. I wanted them to keep my yard clear of ticks. And they do. It makes a really big difference. And I can tell the difference because lately, like in the end of April and early May, I keep my chickens penned up a little bit more than I normally would because it's when the foxes have their babies. And I have had the misfortune of losing chickens to the foxes when they come looking for food for their babies. And so because my chickens have been cooped up a little bit more than usual, I've actually found a couple of ticks on me, which makes me very upset. So I'll be looking forward to letting them get out and sweep the yard, and they do an excellent job. They are so thorough, and they eat all sorts of bugs that we don't want. Unfortunately, they don't like slugs so much. If you have a slug problem, you might want to consider getting some ducks because ducks like to eat slugs, but chickens don't like that gooey stuff on their beaks that bugs them. Oh, no pun intended. Now, this is the ancestor of the chickens, and this is how chickens still regard themselves. They have wicked, fierce egos, okay? Chickens, they think they're at the top of the ladder. And when they walk around, this is how they see themselves. And they are not little mild, that expression that we hear all the time when we call somebody chicken. Chickens are not chicken. They are brave. Those roosters will defend to the death. If they're out there with their flock and a fox or a hawk or an owl or some other critter comes to threaten them, that rooster will give his life to allow the girls to run to safety without thinking twice about it. And they don't just eat corn or seeds. They'll eat a mouse. They'll eat toads. They'll eat lizards. They'll eat frogs, they'll eat newts, you name it. They will eat just about anything that comes across their path. So they're not as dainty as you might think. Now, this is an interesting picture. These are ancient cave paintings, and the experts are calling those critters in their chickens. So I see some four-legged animals and some two-legged animals, and yes, they do resemble chickens to a certain degree, but I wonder if it could possibly be like some kind of big emu type creature, because look at the size of them. So I don't know, it's a mystery. But chickens have been appearing in art since pre-civilization and right up until current day. So here are some examples of chickens being depicted in ancient Greece. You see the rooster underneath the throne there, and that's Persephone and Hades. And so for those of you who need to be reminded, Persephone is the goddess of spring, and she was the daughter of Demeter. And every fall she would go down to the underworld, which was Hades, and spend the winter there. They made a bargain where she would spend half the time in the underworld, and her mother begged please let her come half the time to be with me. And Demeter is the goddess of agriculture. So that was the deal that was struck. And so that's why in the spring we say Persephone returns, and there she is with a cock. And then over on the other picture, we've got this gorgeous mosaic. How beautiful is that, boy? That is lovely. I love mosaics. I like to make mosaics. Featuring a rooster in the center there, and it looks like grapes hanging down above him, and he's eyeing some grapes. Chickens love grapes. Oh my gosh, they love them. Now here's an ancient coin from Persia. And the ancient Persians believed that the chickens heralded in the day because they would start to crow at halftime as the sky was beginning to lighten up. And the metaphor was that they then symbolized spirituality. So the light in the world as opposed to the darkness of the world. And here are some examples of 3D ceramic porcelain and maybe a carving down below there depicting chickens. That's a little teapot of some kind, or a water vessel up above. It's adorable. And here are some two-dimensional representations of chickens. So in the upper left, we've got a page from an old manuscript, and she's out there and she's feeding her flock. There's a couple of roosters that are getting into a fight. Originally, chickens were not kept for food. They were kept for sport. And so I bet she was collecting the eggs, but I'm not so sure if they were actually, well, I'm sure they did eat the chickens, but the main money maker with chickens was sport. And I think it's so interesting to see that coop that she has in the back. It's a woven coop. It's like a great big basket. And for any of you who have never heard of a chicken tractor, there's something called a chicken tractor. And what it is, it's a little movable cage that you can drag around the field or around your yard so that they don't overwork any one particular area. And you can just move it around and they'll clear all the weeds and the bugs and they'll fertilize that area. And then that becomes a great place to grow plants. So I wouldn't be surprised if this woman was using that basket coop as a chicken tractor. And then down below, you have a pin, and I don't remember if that's a Fabergé or a Schlumberger, but it's some kind of a fancy brooch, and that rooster has rubies in his comb and in his wattles and a ruby for an eye. And then you've got this gorgeous textile, and look at the little baby chicks up above with the mother hen and the rooster down below, and the peonies and hydrangeas. That is beautiful. So here's a spectacular old painting of the roosters having a cockfight, and you can see all the little babies are scurrying to safety. The mother's probably calling them, come get away from these crazy roosters having a fight. And it continues. Cockfighting is still active in many places. It's banned in the United States. It's banned in many countries around the world, but there are a lot of countries where it is not banned, and it continues. And it's a horrible, bloody sport. It's what the people do to the chickens to make them even more deadly is terrible. So we don't want to see that. And here's, I'm going to leave you with this image of an adorable little cottage where you have the little chickens in the yard. And this is not too far from what my little cottage here at Dandelion Cottage looks like when my chickens are running around the yard and my gardens are all blooming. And it's a very cozy little place. Now let's see how I stop. There we go. Okay. All right, so can I answer any questions while we take a little pause here? I have something else I want to show you too.
Actually, we do have a question.
Yes.
Which is about your roosters, which we've been hearing in the background.
Yes.
Just really, how loud are they, and do they bother your neighbors?
They're loud, but you get used to them, and they don't crow all the time, and they have a lot of tremendous benefit to the flock. So if you live in an area, you have to check your zoning, because you want to make sure that you're allowed to have a rooster. There are some village residential zones where you cannot have a rooster. I'm a little bit away from the town, so I'm okay. And I also got grandfathered into it. But before anybody gets chickens, you must check your zoning regulations to make sure that you're allowed to have them. But the roosters play an incredible role in the safety and the balance of the flock, because just as I mentioned earlier, they're terrific protectors, and they will save the lives of your chickens. And here in Northwest Connecticut, we have a lot of predators, and they are always vigilant. They are always on the lookout for, keeping an eye on the sky, checking out sounds, sending up the alarm, gathering in the girls, making sure that they stay close. And they also, there's a hierarchy, there's a pecking order. They're part of the social system, and they're king. And if there is a dispute among the ladies and they get into a fight, the rooster may decide to break it up, or he may decide to punish one of them. They're disciplinarians. And but really, while the girls are all very busy, looking for bugs and eating grasses and taking dust baths and, laying eggs and all the other things, taking care of the babies, the roosters are always keeping an eye out for danger. So they're very protective. And so when you live in an area like this where you do have predators, they're essential. I love my roosters. Now, I should tell you that there are many, many different breeds of chickens, and there are the big standard breeds and the little tiny bantams like what I have. And all of these breeds have been bred. They're all domesticated. Chickens don't live on their own. They need a relationship with humans to survive. So they're reliant upon us. But all these breeds have been bred for different attributes. So some roosters are friendlier than others. Now, my little bantam roosters are extremely friendly. I've been handling them since they were born, and they're very affectionate. They're very cute. Oh, and chickens are hilarious. Oh my gosh, they are so funny. To watch them is just, you don't need a TV with a flock of chickens. But if you were thinking about getting a rooster or keeping a rooster with your flock, you want to make sure that you do some research and that the breed of rooster that you're thinking about having is a friendly one, because they can be intimidating to people, and particularly children and other animals. They don't back down. They'll chase you. So if you've got a mean rooster, I've got actually on my Facebook page, I've got a hilarious video that's a compilation of roosters chasing people and critters. That's pretty funny. So do a little research. The chickens I keep are mainly bred for show and for pets. And so they have come to have a very trusting relationship with people. You'll find that the breeds that are bred primarily for meat are very distrustful of people for good reason. Okay, so they know. And they, it's so fascinating. They pass it down physically from generation to generation. But like I said earlier, you and your behavior, it just seems to get into their DNA. They seem to be born with a certain knowledge after a while.
Leslie,
Yeah.
What is the proportion of roosters to hens that you should have?
Well, I have 25 chickens, and 3 of them are, so I don't keep my roosters together. So 2 of my roosters have known each other for a long time, and they kind of get along pretty well. They know what the deal is. My young rooster, who is going to be the new king of the flock shortly, he doesn't have any manners. And so I have to keep him separate because he will get into a fight if he had the opportunity to do it. But to answer your question, typically you'd have one rooster per flock of chickens. And, 20 chickens is a lot for one rooster to deal with, but he does all right, The greater issue is if you have too few chickens. So if you have, say, 5, 4, or even 3 chickens, there's a lot of wear and tear on the chickens from the rooster. So you want to make sure that you have enough chickens to keep your rooster from overdoing things. Okay, so I want to show you, for those of you who are interested in getting chickens, I want to show you a really great resource. So now this time I'm going to open up my browser and let me figure out how to do this. Okay, can you see that, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is a website. It's called Backyard Chickens. And I've watched this website grown over the past 16, 17 years, and it is huge. Just about anything you've ever wondered that you'd like to know about, you can find on this website. But one of the features that I particularly like is if you go into the section under articles. Is it under articles? Let's say search articles. Nope. All right, I'm not finding the right place. There we go. Okay, what did I hit? Okay, there's the art. Anyway, I don't know how I got here. I either hit articles and then, so the section I'm looking for is this area that says chicken coops.
Mm.
If you click on chicken coops, they've got thousands and thousands of chicken coops that people have made. So there's small coops, there's medium coops, and there's large coops, and then there's chicken tractors. And if you're thinking about getting chickens, this is the single most important thing that you can do, because your coop is the thing that's going to help keep your chickens happy, healthy, and protected. So you want to make sure that before you get your chickens, that you have a coop that's built like Fort Knox, because you don't want weasels and raccoons and opossums and snakes and whoever, bears, getting in there to get at your chickens. So in this website, they'll give you lots of extremely wonderful and creative ideas. So let's just take, for instance, let's just look at medium coops for a second, see what we get here. So here are many, many examples of coops that people have built, and it's like the ultimate architectural art form. People pride themselves on building coops out of found materials. So if you can build a coop with completely recycled materials, that's like a badge of honor. But you can, if you're looking for ideas of how to keep your coops safe and sound for your flock, this is a tremendous resource for you. And there's a lot of little things that you can do, like you want to keep it. Chickens love sun. They run on sun energy, but they also need some shade in the summer because they can get overheated. So if you can have a coop that has a orientation where you're keeping it out of the north and west wind, but they can get a little eastern and southern light, that's a good thing, and maybe some shade in the middle of the day. So there's lots of things like that. Then there's, the kind of roosts that you provide for your chickens. There are the nesting boxes. There's not a lot to it, but there are some very thoughtful things that you can do. Like if you look at this, can you see where I'm swirling my mouse around here?
Yeah.
So if you get, for instance, some of the heavy breeds, like the big standard breeds, many of them have been bred now so that they're so heavy that if they were to have to fly up to a high perch to roost, they'd have a hard time. And they'd also have a hard time jumping down. They could even break a leg. So what the people that built this coop did was they made these nice ramps, which was very thoughtful, which is great. And the other nice thing is that instead of having a round perch, they've got a rectangular perch. And that's important in a climate like ours where it gets very cold, because that enables them to tuck their little toes up underneath them in the winter so they don't get frostbite. So there's a lot of little nuances and things that tips that you can learn from this website to help you have a nice, safe place for your animals.
Sorry.
Okay, so here I want to show you some other cute resources online. So there's a couple of Instagram accounts. So this one is called Chicken Selfie, and there are how many? Look at this, 35,804 people that are posting pictures of their chickens to this website, that they love their chickens so much, and they're taking pictures of themselves with their chickens. So that's one. Here's another one. This is called Chicken Selfie Sunday, and they have over 900 posts. Now, I've actually posted my picture to this website. This is run by this great woman whose name is Sam, and she has a radio show about chickens out in the Midwest somewhere. And she gets all of these pictures that people send in on Sundays. And she goes through all of the entrants and she picks the ones that she likes best and she posts them on here. So, but it just, you know, it just shows you how much people fall in love with their chickens. They just love them. Now, this lady, I've just got two more to show you, but this lady is Diana, and she's down in Brazil, and she has a flock of chickens, and she also has a couple of pigeons as well. And she has set up a way where you can donate money and help people who have sick chickens get the care that they need if they can't afford it. So there's her husband. There she is with this little pigeon that was sick that she took in, and the pigeon is now completely in love with her. He can't leave her side, and all her other animals. And then finally, the last one I'm going to show you is the real Boo the Roo. Now this guy is a superstar, and he lives in a house with his extended family. There's his mom. And he plays the piano, and he types on the computer and sends emails out to people. He goes for walks in a stroller, and he's a rescue, and he's turned into quite the celebrity. So he has 32.4 thousand followers around the world are watching the real Boo the Roo. So people love their chickens, and after keeping them myself for over 15 years, I can tell you that it's easy to do. They are remarkably affectionate. They're friendly. They're smart. They're entertaining. They will keep you company. They will feed you. How many pets will actually feed you? I think Lawrence will attest to the bounty that the chickens provide us with. He eats their little eggs, and I bring my eggs to the farmer's market. I bring my chickens to the farmer's market. We have an event here in Norfolk called Weekend in Norfolk, if anybody's ever heard of that before. and I will have my chickens on hand so that the kids can see them and hold them and play with them. And then they stamp greeting cards using chicken stamps and write little messages and give them to their parents and color them in. So I think that pretty much covers it, unless anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask. Have I sold anybody on chickens?
Could you repeat the name of the website that has all the information about the coops?
Backyard Chickens.
Backyard Chickens. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
And there's another website that has a tremendous amount of material on it called My Pet Chicken.
Okay.
And there may be a lot more. And there's a lot of really good books and magazines.
So we have lots of coyotes around us. Are these coops really, can they be made coyote proof?
Oh yes, oh yes. I would recommend, you know, when you order your chicks, you're going to have them in the house or in the basement or someplace for the first few weeks, and you know, where it's warm and they're protected. But when it's time to put them out, you should be prepared with a good sized coop and also a chicken run or an aviary or something attached to it. For a long time, I just had the coop, and I would only let the chickens out when I was home and I was out in the garden with them. Having the aviary makes it so much better, because now if I'm busy during the day and I can't get outside or I have to go somewhere, I can let them out and I can know that they're protected, even if I'm not here. The other thing that's really good is having a water source near the coop. So I ran an underground water line up to my coop and have a frost-proof hydrant, which is basically, you know, it's called a frost-proof hydrant. I don't know what else to call it, but it's got a handle. I can leave the water running all winter long. I don't have to worry about the pipes breaking. And the other thing I have in my coop is something called hardware cloth, which is the metal screening that's about 1/2 inch squares. And I have all of the doors and windows are lined with the hardware cloth, and I even lined the floor with it. So basically my coop was a little 8 by 10 foot shed that came with the house, and the previous owner actually did have chickens. But I find that the 8 by 10 foot is ideal, and plus I can stand in it, which makes it very easy to maintain it and to get in there and do what I need to do. But what I did was I lined the floor with the hardware cloth, and then I put linoleum on top of that so it would be easy to clean. And I don't have to worry about any rodents or raccoons chewing through the wood to get up from underneath. So yeah, you know, my greatest advice that I can give you is to be prepared. You know, get your coop planned and built and have it ready. And after that, they're a piece of cake. There's nothing to it. It's the easiest thing in the world to take care of chickens. They're wonderful. There are very few problems that you have to worry about, you know, other than the predators. And also, you know, if you decide to raise babies, you're going to have the capacity to get rid of your unwanted roosters. So either you're going to have to do that yourself, or you're going to have to bring your extra roosters someplace where they will dispatch them for you. I tell the girls they go off to war so that they're not too upset about it. It's a little white lie I tell them.
Can you leave them overnight and stuff?
I do. I can leave them for a couple of days. So I can make sure that there's plenty of food and water, and make sure that, you know, everything's all secure, and I can go for a couple of days. But if I'm gone any longer than that, then I need to have a neighbor come in and look. Fortunately, there's a lot of chicken lovers in the town, so that has never been a problem, finding somebody to look after them for me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been so informative.
Well, my pleasure. I mean, I could actually probably go on and on and on. I mean, I'm trying to spare you from from hearing a 2-hour long monologue, but I love my chickens. And for me, there's nothing, I look forward to this time of day and just, forgetting about whatever it is I was working on in the daytime and sitting up and watching them peck around and walk around is the most relaxing thing in the world for me. I just look forward to that. And I will never not have chickens, ever. I will always have chickens. So long as I have my place and I have a place for chickens, I will always have a chicken. So that's my recommendation to you.
That's great.
Do you have any advice on acclimating a 1-year-old golden retriever? We have 8 chickens that are 3 months old, and we have not let them free range yet because our one dog is obsessed with them. And I think she's just playful, but
She wants to retrieve them for
we're
you.
nervous.
Yeah. Well, I would say, first of all, I listen to those radio shows sometimes on WAMC where the dog trainer comes on. And I would, and I'm not an expert, but keep your dog on a leash, have the dog out there with the chickens so that they can, watch them and sniff them and see them, but make sure that you either have a leash or a muzzle or a fence or something in between the dog and the chickens. And just make sure that you do positive reinforcement with the treats. Mm-hmm. So every time the dog behaves and does something nice, he gets a treat.
Right.
And that, dogs are all about reward and treats. So you can get them to do just about anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And also, I've never heard of any golden retrievers being particularly dangerous around other animals. And if the pictures on the internet that I see mean anything, I mean, you always see them with ducks on top of their heads and, baby kittens and, so. I think that of all the breeds you could have, you would probably have the easiest time gentling that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How about certain kinds of dog breeds?
Like black Czechoslovakian German Shepherds.
Yes.
Yeah, they will eat chickens quickly. You will see feathers flying in the air before you even know what happened. I have a rescue dog named Buster who is enormous. He's huge. And actually, at this point, he's so old and he's so used to them. I don't even know if he would go after them, but I wouldn't trust him.
Well, thanks. I've got to sign off, but this has been such a great session. Thank you so much.
Katie, if you decide to go ahead with this, please don't hesitate to email me and ask me any questions. I really care that that chickens have a nice life, and it's not something that about right off the bat. So if I can help you, make sure that it's good for you and good for them, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye.
Any other questions, Leslie?
Just a comment, and that is that Leslie taught a series of art classes at Noble once, and she brought in the chicken.
Lacey Graymantle.
Yes, Lacey Graymantle. And one of the things we had to do was she put newspaper on the table and the chicken on top of the newspaper. The chicken went all over and greeted people and where it's held by people. And then Leslie had us do a whole series of quick sketches. And I think that is the favorite thing I've ever created, is that wonderful thing. She was beautiful. It was so much fun.
And she held still. Once she realized that she was the center of attention, she just was so proud. And she
was
stood
a real
at the center
model
of the table. And when everybody was done, she went around, she looked at everybody's picture and pecked at it, gave you a critique. She was adorable. Oh, what an adorable chicken she was. She was so pretty. Yeah. Yeah, the sad thing about chickens is that they, they don't, not all of them live to be 15 years old. But the good thing is that you can have a whole bunch of them. So, you've got somebody else to keep you company in your grieving. Yeah. Yeah, I have a picture here that I forgot to show you. But here's a watercolor I did of one of my Bantam's baby a while back. I know the light's not great, but baby was a special needs chicken. She was my only special needs chicken. And she made her way into the hearts and affection of the entire flock. I was so worried. I thought, they were going to pick on her because, she couldn't keep up with the rest of them. And so what I would do is I would put her in my vegetable garden where she was protected by the fence, so she could still be outside and get sunshine and so forth, but the other chickens couldn't pick on her. Well, one day I see the queen bee of the flock, Scarlet, and Scarlet had jumped up on top of the fence and flew over into the garden. I was like, oh, she's gonna beat up baby. So I ran over there, and all they wanted to do was just hang out together. And so this became a daily occurrence. So every day at a certain time of the day, Scarlet would jump up into the garden and sit next to baby. And it was like baby, was she was like a little Buddhist priest or something. She just had this kind of calming effect. Well, at that time, I had this rooster named Caruso Roo. He was my first rooster, and he was terrific. He was a bearded Belgian Danver, my favorite breed, one of my favorite breeds. And one day I see Caruso Roo going over the garden fence, and I go running up there because I was afraid he was going to jump on baby and it was going to be terrible. Son of a gun, if he didn't go and hang out and sit next to her, and she started just sort of nibbling and grooming around his cheeks. And it was like he would go in there every day for his little meditation hour and just hang out with her. So she was very special, little baby. She was a house chicken. She couldn't live in the coop. So she lived in the house. She had a little cage in the house and stayed with me.
How many years have you had chickens, Leslie?
At least 16. I'm not great with dates. I would have to go back at my calendars, but I think I bought the house in 2006, and I had chickens before the house was ready to move into. So the first thing I did was get a chicken tractor, and I had it in my front lawn because there was construction going on in the back, and the neighbors in the town were saying, "What is that thing you've got in your front lawn?" It was my chicken tractor with my little babies. Yeah.
My daughter-in-law is thinking about having chickens, and that's why I thought it would be fun to find out as much about them as I could.
Yeah, well, turn her on to that website. I
wrote it down.
Yeah, because that covers everything. I think it's either Backyard Chickens or My Backyard Chickens, but either way you'll find it. And it's massive. There's so much information in there. Medical information about breeds, what you need to construct the coop, predators, or you name it. You'll find the information in there.
Great.
I wish her luck. Tell her, run, don't walk. Get her chick. You hear that? Did everybody hear that? That's my peacock. I have a peacock out there. I have 2 peacocks. that was a side effect of getting chickens, getting the peacocks.
Now, what do you mean? Is there a relationship between them?
Just that I had the coop, I had the aviary, I had the ability to get it. Actually, they came as eggs. So I had mentioned to somebody I knew who had peacocks. I said, "Boy, I'd like to have a peacock." And he said, well, I'll give you some eggs. I said, okay, I'll put them under the chickens because the chickens are very broody. And so a day or two later, I found a little basket with 4 giant eggs. And so the peacock eggs are about this big and my bantam eggs are about this big. And I had this one chicken, her name was Two Eyes because her sister was One Eye. And Two Eyes was a very athletic chicken. And I noticed that when she went broody and she had a little family of chicks, that she would stay with them longer than the other hens would stay with theirs. So most hens are like, I'm done with this, I'm out of here, you're on your own, I'm going back to the flock. But Two Eyes would hang out while they were sort of young and rambunctious still. So I put the eggs under Two Eyes, and the pile of eggs was really bigger than she was. But she had the fortitude and the stamina to sit on this bunch of eggs. She hatched out 3 peacocks. And so instead of the standard 22 days, I think she went like 28, 29 days or something like that.
Wow.
And I had 3 peacocks. So I'm down to 2 now, frankincense and myrrh. But they're incredible. They're incredibly beautiful.
Do they live in the coop with the chickens?
They do. In the wintertime, they do. In the summertime, I keep them separate.
Yeah.
In the summertime, I have to keep them all separate and it's warmer and it doesn't matter. But in the winter, when it's cold and, you know, they need to hunker down, they all hang out together, yes. All right, well, I guess we're going to end it here. It's just about 8 o'clock, unless somebody's got one last question. Anybody?
It's been delightful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So nice to see you all. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Lawrence, for inviting me to speak to these lovely people.
Yeah.
And we look forward to hearing your talk coming right up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I love the chickens.
Say goodbye. This is Nippy. Nippy says goodbye. She's ready to go back out and find some worms. All right, so I'm going to hit the button and say goodnight.
Good night. Goodbye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.